Good evening, Dark Academy listeners. I'm Kristin, and I'll be your guide through this dark and chilling night. If you haven't listened to the update I posted in the feed, or you're new here, you may be wondering where my co-host is. Fear not, Becca has not left us, but she is not able to do as many episodes as we would like. Instead of making you wait until we are able to get together, I will be bringing you solo episodes to keep the podcasts more consistent. I will treat these solo episodes like a late night, dark and spooky library session. So grab your candles and follow me to our haunted library of horror. Do you find yourself wondering about the mysteries hidden in the shadows? What drives a person to commit heinous acts of violence? Or why some souls linger, unable to find peace? Are we alone in the universe, or are mythical creatures lurking in your backyard? One thing's for certain, you have found your home. Welcome to Dark Academy, podcast of the macabre. Everybody settle in, get comfortable, there's room for everybody. Okay, now that we're all settled, I would like to give you a quick intro into our new corner of Dark Academy. When you listen to podcasts, read books, watch a movie, or simply have a conversation with somebody about any topic, it's assumed you know certain things. Background information, you know? No one has time to explain it all to us every time, I get that. Google is free, as they say. But sometimes discussing what you don't know is just as much a way to connect as it is a form of trying to get information. Some people act like it's exclusive knowledge though, as though there's some moment in life you pass where not knowing excludes you from the group. I'm not sure why people do this, but we're starting our own group, so anybody who wants to join can. We'll figure it out together. I am so interested in everything horror, but I am interested in everything horror. True and fictitious crime stories, movies, books, plays, history, haunted houses, ghost stories at Christmas, all love it. There's just not enough time to see or read it all, though. Have you ever heard that saying, jack of all trades, master of none? Well, that's me with horror. But I still want to consume horror and talk about it with you. Halloween is upon us, so what a great time to start. I don't know about y'all, but I'll be watching horror movies throughout the entire season. I'm planning to pick a movie to talk about each episode. I'll tell y'all the episode before what it is so you can watch it too. We won't be going into a deep dive though. You absolutely can, but my attention span is kind of short. I just want to know from regular people what's good and what's not good about the movie and if it's recommended. I wish there was a review system where you knew how closely your reviews match the reviews of the person giving a review. If I know I have a completely different preference from someone else, I'd like to know that before I take their advice. Take Becca and I, for example. If you've been listening for very long, it's pretty obvious we have different tastes in movies. I'm cautious to suggest movies to her because she doesn't always like what I like, and I know I may like a movie even if she doesn't. We're just different. But we're still friends and still love talking about movies with each other. I'm also going to try to connect the rest of the episode with whatever movie we watch in some way. We'll see if that works out. If not, we'll scratch that. Since this is our first solo episode, well, I hate calling it solo episode because y'all are here too. I just need something to differentiate these episodes from the ones Becca is a part of. My working name right now is Midnight Circle. Tell me what you think. I want something that says we're meeting secretly in the library, because we are, but we can invite people, you know? Since this is our first Midnight Circle session, I'll start with a whole franchise that I'm fairly confident most have seen at least a few of the movies. If not, that's okay too. You can still sit with us. Guess which one? If you know me at all, I think you can guess. That's right. Scream. I know, I already did an episode related to Scream. It's just, since we didn't have any prep ahead of time of what movie to talk about, I wanted to bring in one that I was pretty sure everybody had seen. So let's get into it. Nothing beats the first one, but a few others were pretty good in my book. If I had to rank them, I think I would have to say 1, then I know this is controversial, but 4, 6, then 2, 3, and 5. I'm sorry, I feel like 5 was the worst one. I know people will disagree, so fight me. Just kidding. That's just my opinion. Tell me yours. Please feel free to defend, but also please be nice. So we know the whole premise of most slashers are the same. Someone or multiple people are being killed by masked killer or killers. Scream is no different. There's always some reason for it, usually revenge, but also a bit of fame from it, which I don't get because they also want to frame somebody else and get away with it. I know that wasn't always the case, but if you're not known as the killer, then you get no fame as being the killer, so it makes no sense. Anyway, Wes Craven directed Screams 1 through 4. Since he tragically died in 2015, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette directed Screams 5 and 6 with mostly new characters. I just watched Scream 6. Somehow, I kept forgetting it existed. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good though. I liked it way better than Scream 5 for sure. I felt like Scream 5 tried a little too hard to force connections to the original characters. Like they wanted us to care about the new characters without earning it. But I did start to care about them a little more in this movie. It was a little cheesy, but I did like the whole Core 4 thing. So, I feel like a psycho for saying this, but I didn't like that so many people survived. I mean, it's a slasher film. Are we scared to kill people in a slasher film now? Hopefully they won't be in Scream 7, because it looks like we're getting another movie. But it sounds like none of the new people from the last 2 movies, including the Core 4, will be in it, so I got attached for nothing. Even the directors won't be back. From what I read, the writer of the first Scream movie, Kevin Williamson, will be directing this one. And Neve Campbell will be back as Sidney Prescott. I would love to see Hayden Panettiere come back. She brings a little spunk to the cast. Though her character didn't feel the same in Scream 6 as it did in Scream 4. Kirby in Scream 4 was smooth and cool. And this one, she got a little campy, but she's still precious. We'll just have to wait until 2026 to see what the new installment brings. As much as I love Scream and other horror movies, I am able to separate fantasy from reality. I think most of us are. Thankfully, it's rare, but there are some people out there who can't separate the two. Sometimes it's just a weird, crazy fan who can't separate the actor from the character and shows some sort of abuse toward the real person, simply bringing life to a part they didn't even create. And sometimes it's worse. Much, much worse. It's said life imitates art more than art imitates life. The Scream franchise has both. I covered the Gainesville Ripper on episode 11, The Real Ghostface Killer. I explained how writer Kevin Williams drew influence from Danny Rolling's Killing Spree. If you'd like to hear more, go check that out. So, Scream was influenced by real-life events, but then, people were influenced by Scream. There were quite a few instances. In 1999, Gina Castillo, 37, was killed by her 17-year-old son and his 16-year-old cousin in Linwood, California. They decided to act out Scream 1 and 2 but couldn't afford the mask, so they put their shirts over their heads. In 2011, 2 girls, Kimberly Farah, 18, and Leanne Milius, 17, were killed by 3 guys aged 18 to 20 in Salem, New Hampshire, after holing up in a hotel room watching Scream on repeat, taking drugs, and discussed killing young women. The most well-known case is Cassie Jo Stoddard. This one seems to have influenced Scream 4. On September 22, 2006, in Pocatello, Idaho, Cassie was house and pet sitting for her aunt and uncle while they were vacationing for the weekend. She was getting paid for this just like she would for any other job, but there were privileges that came with it. It was a reward, really, for being so responsible and trustworthy. So much so, her boyfriend Matt was even allowed to spend time with her alone at the house. As a parent, I know how huge it is to trust 2 teenagers to be home alone by themselves. Her mom picked her and Matt up from school on Friday afternoon and dropped them off at the house on the most idyllic-sounding street, Whispering Cliffs Drive. The 2 hung out at the house alone for a while, but Matt invited over some friends. Or he invited a friend named Tori. He brought his friend, Brian. When Tori and Brian got there, Cassie and Matt did a little house tour for them. They ended up in the basement where they started a movie. But the two friends ended up leaving around 9:30 before the movie was over. They said they were going to go watch a movie at the movie theater in town. Around the same time, Cassie's mom called to check on her. Once they were alone again, they settled in the living room to watch a movie. But after a while, the power began to flicker on and off. It scared them, but not enough to go check it out, so they continued watching their movie until the dogs started barking. You at least have to check it out when animals react. They have senses we don't, or at least stronger ones. Cassie was so scared at this point that Matt called his mom to see if he could stay over. She said no, but that Cassie could come stay with them. Cassie felt she couldn't leave the home. She was supposed to make sure the house was okay while her aunt and uncle were gone. She had a duty. I know it was completely normal at the time. I even house sat a few times when I was a teen. But thinking about it now, it seems insane to have a teenager home alone to make sure your house is okay. I don't even like to leave my 17-year-old home alone at night for any length of time, let alone a whole weekend. No version of this is to blame anybody but the killers. Just one of those hindsight 2020 situations. I think most of the time we look back and think, what were we thinking? But you also have to start giving them a little freedom, and these instances are rare, so there is no right answer. It's all scary. This world is scary. But given Matt's mom nor Cassie were changing their mind, Matt was picked up around 11:30, leaving Cassie in the house alone. I also wonder why Cassie didn't call her mom. I'm sure she was trying to be grown up and responsible, but if she was so scared, why not call her? I know a lot of people act like asking these questions as some form of victim blaming. It's just common questions, curiosity about events that took place. Obviously, she didn't do anything to cause her death. Obviously, it's not her fault, but we can still wonder why certain things did or didn't happen. I do. Matt tried to call Tori on his way home to try to hang out with him and Brian, but it sounded like they were still at the movies since Tori was whispering when he answered the phone. So Matt went home. Tori was not at the movie theater, though. He and Brian were in the basement of the house on Whispering Cliffs, where Cassie thought she was home alone. Matt tried to call Cassie when he got home, but she didn't answer. He tried again in the morning, while he was hanging out with Tori. He continued to try to call her, but didn't get a response. Again with my questions. Why didn't he just go over there? He knows where it is, where she was. Why not go check on her? Especially after knowing what happened the night before. No one checked on her. No one saw her for the whole weekend, until her aunt and uncle came home on Sunday. It was now clear why no one had heard from her. They found her laying dead on the floor, stabbed to death. There was no forced entry, so the police thought it had to be someone she knew. Everyone liked Cassie, so no one could think of anyone who would want to hurt her. I know many people have issues with describing victims in a way that suggests they didn't deserve such a fate, like they were so nice and beautiful. I don't understand the emphasis on beauty other than the fact that it sells, but knowing people liked her narrows down the suspect pool. When there's no motive, the investigation gets complicated. Cassie's mom's boyfriend was momentarily a suspect when his fingerprints showed up on the fuse box in the basement, since the power went out and all, but that was easily explained away. He worked on the electricity months before. Plus he had an alibi. Matt was the obvious next suspect. You know the saying, the husband did it. It usually extends to the boyfriend as well. And he was the last known person to see her. He took and passed a polygraph test, which is not a complete rule out, but it's a starting off point for an interview. In his interview, Matt mentioned Tori and Brian coming over, so police brought them in for questioning. They quickly got their number. It was easy to poke holes in their lies. They couldn't remember any details about the movie they supposedly saw, and an employee who knew them was 100% sure neither of them were at the movies that night. When pressed about his lies, Brian started to squeal. He admitted to lying, but said they were actually breaking into cars and didn't want to get in trouble for that. He agreed to take a polygraph test, but right before the test started, he began confessing. Sort of. He said he and Tori unlocked the basement door when they were at the house earlier in the night. Messing with the lights and making noises was supposed to be a prank. When they went upstairs in white masks to scare Cassie, Tori was the one who took it to a whole different level and stabbed Cassie. Crying with his parents in the room, he said, "It wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a joke." Could you imagine? I would be so scared of my friend after this. Would he kill me too? He agreed to take the police to the location where they dumped and burned the evidence. The masks, gloves, multiple knives were found, and a video. As I said, they burned the evidence, but apparently they didn't stay long enough to make sure it was completely destroyed. Because the video wasn't ruined, it had everything the cops needed. The video showed the boys planning a murder, not a prank. Also in the video, Brian said, "I just killed Cassie. I stabbed her in the throat. I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie." You can actually find this video online. It is disturbing, to say the least. They even videoed Cassie at school that morning. Creepiest part to me. These are the stories that make me not trust people. Like, are you really just saying hello or are you plotting my murder? Gotta watch these people. In the part of the video where they're planning Cassie's murder, they say they're trying to be like Scream. It's perfect because she's in a big house in the middle of nowhere. One even said he was getting horny just thinking about it. Disgusting. They even mention a kill list. I guess they thought they would go on a killing spree like Billy and Stu on Scream. Wonder if they ever finished that movie, since the killers died and all. Psychopaths always think they're smarter. They didn't just want to emulate Scream. They also idolized Ted Bundy, the Zodiac Killer, the Hillside Stranglers, as well as Columbine school shooters Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. I just don't get it. How do you hear these stories and think, I want to be the monster in that story? I get the desire to be the one that scares someone in a fun way. People who don't mind being scared, that is. Consent is good in all areas of life. But not to actually want to hurt people. That I'll never understand. Even at a logical self-preservation level, why would you want to do this so bad that you don't care if you die? You don't care if you spend the rest of your life in prison for these acts that are such a small portion of your life. How is it worth it? It was very unfortunate for Cassie and her friends and family, but there was a whole kill list of people who were survivors. So thankfully police were able to put these two idiots behind bars for good. These copycat murders were not unique to the US. In 1999, in North Yorkshire, England, 13-year-old Ashley Murray was stabbed by so-called friends. They stabbed him 18 times after watching Scream. They wrapped him in a trash bag and left him for dead. Luckily, a dog walker found him 40 hours later. Somehow, he survived. In France, a school-age boy violently attacked two schoolgirls. He ended up killing another girl, but luckily, she named him as her killer before she died, so he was caught, unable to kill anybody else. France actually had quite a few murders or attempted murders that were attributed to Scream. So much so, the people called for the movies to be banned in the country. But they legally cannot remove a movie once it's been released, unless it's causing a big problem with public order. I feel like if it wasn't Scream, it would be something else that would cause these psychos to kill. So I'm glad our horror lives on in spite of these idiots. Well, that's it for Scream and the copycat murders. Next time, let's talk about La Llorona, the movie and the folklore behind it. I'll probably tie in some true crime in there too. We'll see. I would like to close with a small segment, something very short, like phobias, weird deaths, etc. For this one, keeping the theme around knives, open dishwashers is my new phobia. I usually put my knives sharp side down anyway because I'm clumsy and I don't want to get stabbed trying to grab them to put them away. I thought this was the worst thing that could happen. I would never imagine that in 2001, a Canadian man would trip over his mother's dishwasher door and land on multiple knives, killing him. Or that in 2003, a 31-year-old woman would slip and fall onto a dishwasher door, falling onto a knife sticking up. She ended up dying at the hospital. There were multiple kids who died this way too. So, lesson of the day. Don't put your knives sharp side up in the dishwasher. Maybe don't leave the door open at all for good measures. Thank you for joining me for this meeting here at Dark Academy Library. I hope you enjoyed this dark and chilling tale and will come back next time for another one. Don't forget to leave your opinion about the episode. You can leave one in the comment section if you're on Spotify. I'll try to post pictures and other content on social media. You can comment there too if you'd like. If you'd like to review the whole show, you can do that on Apple Podcasts. You can rate us on any of the apps, and please do. It really helps. Well, thanks again for listening, and I'll meet you here next time. Bye.